And good morning. And today is Wednesday, October 21st. I'm Shafiq Abdussabur, and this is Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM, WNHHLP, where you will hear conversation, information, education, inspiration, motivation from the American urban perspective. Today on Urban Talk Radio, I have a new guest, but before I bring him on, um, my brother, co-host Kingsley Osei, he's on his way. It's a Zoom thing. I don't even know what you want to call it now, but anybody that's home and does these Zoom calls or does these Zoom meetings or does these Zoom broadcasts know that the only thing reliable about Zoom is that it has delays, whether it's on your part
True.
or the part of Zoom. So a lot of things going on in America. We are roughly, Harry, how many days in front of the election? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Looks like 13 days, people. 13 days in front of what we are calling one of the most important elections in the history of North America. I actually think the only other important election that was a turning point for America other than this probably was the election of Andrew Jackson, who eventually started or codified the American banking system. But that's just my opinion. But others will agree that for this election, this is critical. Now, I have my thoughts about it, but I'll hold them for the rest of the show until we start talking. Right now, the United States of America leads the world in coronavirus infections. We're roughly hovering around the 9 million mark. Last week, Johns Hopkins University for this week reported an increase of 63,000 cases approximately in the United States of America. So for anybody out there that thinks that you are invincible or you are immune, you're not. Make sure that you are following the CDC protocols. These people went to college their whole life, studied and researched to try to figure out how to keep you safe. If you have not been doing that your whole life and you've been your whole life doing what you want to do, there's no degrees given around the world or in America for having a PhD and doing what the hell you want to do. So follow the protocols, be safe, and make sure that you keep your family safe. So if you want to stream the show live on your smartphone this morning, you can log on to newhavenindependent.org, or you can tune in live at 103.5 FM. Today, my guest of the show, my show guest is, let me get it all, make sure I have it right, Andrew Myers. And Andrew Myers is the managing director of Farnham Center. So some things have happened recently with the Farnham Center. I don't want to talk about that on this show. I want to save that for another show and bring on the representatives and all of those involved in that so we can have a really good kind of like surprise conversation show about that. But today I have Andrew on, and we're just going to talk about the things that's happening in the world and in America. We actually was together last week, and we was actually up at the Farnham camp doing some things, and me and him started talking, and we going back and forth. And he's like, "I listen to your show all the time," and I was like, "Oh, that's great." But our conversation was, as I told him, that was one of the most intriguing conversations that I had in a very long time, and especially standing in the middle of the wilderness in the fall, enjoying the breeze. We were social distancing for all you people out there. Say,
Yes, we were.
is a hypocrite. He doesn't. He doesn't. They probably was talking to each other's face. He's like, "Yo, what's up, man? I love you, man." All this other stuff. No, he wasn't. We had our mask on, right? So it was really good. And I said, you know what? Why don't you come on the show and let's talk, right? Let's talk about what's going on. So people think Urban Talk Radio. Every time, of course, we think about urban. We think about Black people, we think about Hispanic, Latino, we think of people of color, we think of something, as we say, from the streets. But Urban Talk Radio is really about raw perspective. And that's what this radio show is about. It's about raw perspective. So I would be remiss if I had a show every day and every time somebody came on the show, everybody was black. That would not work out. Other radio stations already do that. And they recently tried to change their format by adding shows and saying, oh my God, we got a black show. They don't say that, but they have a black person on the show. Or, oh my God, we got a new gay show. And it's not a gay show, but it's the person that's running it is a gay and lesbian person. So it becomes like a gender identity thing. This ain't what Urban Talk Radio is. It's real. It's I don't want to make it from the streets because it ain't like we're trap radio, you know, it ain't underground trap radio, but we are in with a good conversation. Kingsley, what's going on, man? Good morning. Get off the mute. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Get that mute button. Get that mute button. Get that mute button.
Urban trap.
There you go. You got it? You got it?
I said Urban Trap Radio.
Urban Trap Radio. Urban Trap Radio. Yeah, man. What's going on? Where were you at? I missed you this morning almost. You all right?
I'm good, man.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Everybody's good.
Dealing with a little health issue, but I'm good. Nothing serious.
Okay. Where is Andrew? Where Andrew go? Did he disappear? I gave the thing about Urban Talk Radio and then he disappeared.
You scared him with it. We scared him with the Urban Trap Radio. We scared him away.
No, you know what? I got to make sure that he did not get kidnapped. By the dudes from
does he live in Michigan?
They didn't get all of them too. Yeah, I gotta make sure he get kidnapped. Let's see what happened to him.
It's a lot of kidnapping going on. A lot of kidnapping going on, and it ain't coming from Antifa neither.
He probably just dropped off of.
A lot of kidnapping going on, and it's not coming from Antifa neither.
Okay, he's back, Andrew. Woo! Man, you back? We thought you got kidnapped by them dudes from Montana.
Wi-Fi.
Okay, his Wi-Fi got
That's another one of those fun Zoom meeting things.
There's Wi-Fi. I was getting ready to say, Andrew, because I can't get shut off because the government got state of Connecticut got emergency order. You can't shut off none of your utilities right now. So you're fine.
We just had a little hiccup and all the Wi-Fi in the whole building went out. Everybody, now we're back on. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. So Andrew, thank you for joining us today on Urban Talk Radio in our exclusive Zoom studio, right? And for all of those that are old enough, remember Zoom, but this ain't that
Zoom on Zoom. We're dating ourselves.
We're that old.
Yep.
Yeah, we're that old, right? People are like, oh my God, what a song. Yes, they did.
They can look it up on
Tell us who you are, Andrew. Tell us what you're about, man. Where you from?
Well,
where you about?
So you alluded to it, but full disclosure, Shafiq's kind of my boss. I mean,
no, oh man, come on, man! Don't do that to me on the radio show.
No, but
you're killing me right now.
Shafiq does sit on the board of Farnham, and I am proud and pleased to have been brought on quite recently to help manage and bring back programming to this amazing institution. I'm a Connecticut native. I've lived here my whole life.
So where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in South Windsor, which is basically a tobacco farm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Folks lived there and crossed the river and worked at Pratt & Whitney, and then came home and farmed. That's about it. Grew up.
Windsor actually has the best cigar wraps in the world. Actually, most all of the top line Cuban cigars are wrapped.
Is that where they
with Connecticut wrappers? People didn't know that.
It was a prime industry. I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and all 8 of us worked tobacco.
Wow.
They would hire you at a young age. You could work the farms.
Hey, what cities, Liga? I know
you ever got bit by.
I know.
Go ahead,
I know Liga is made in Connecticut. What city are they based in?
I'm not sure.
What is that?
Liga Privada.
Kinsley, what is that?
Liga Privada. They're in Connecticut. I'm trying to find out what city are they based out of.
Oh.
That's one of those Google questions.
I don't know them.
Yeah,
Did you ever get bit by a tobacco worm?
Oh, I've been bit.
You ever get bit by a tobacco worm?
I've been bit by a tobacco worm. I've been bit by a lot of things in that farm. It was the smelliest, dirtiest, most hot, tiring job anybody could ever have, I think.
Wow.
At least
now imagine doing, listen, imagine doing that for your whole life. Your children have to do that. Your wife have to do that. Your grandchildren have to do that. Your great-great-grandchildren have to do that. And none of y'all get paid.
Yep.
Welcome to Black America.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you, Shafiq, it was why every day my brothers and sisters would come home and my father would say, do your homework. My father would say, you do not want to do that job for the rest of your life. Do you? Because if you do, great. If not, stay in school. Stay in school, figure out what you're going to do to contribute to this world. We grew up in a time and in a place where service was important. You know, there were 8 of us. We worked at home. We got jobs. We helped provide for the family. I was involved in scouting, which was a service organization. That's where I got involved in camping. I knew it from a very young age. All my brothers and sisters would come home from school and play school. I never got to be the teacher. So I knew I was going to become a teacher. I wanted to have kids of my own. So I've explored those things, and the time in my life and Farnham's needs right now, it was a perfect storm. It was, we've got a preschool here, they've got a camp that needs to be brought back. Those are my jams, early childhood and preschool. Done that for years and years and years. Camping, programming, also in my bag of tricks. So when they were looking for somebody that could do those 2 things and really bring back what this neighborhood needs, I was happy to jump in and fill that void. So we just have a lot of work ahead of us because, you know, you said it earlier, COVID-19 has changed the playing field. Folks are afraid. They're afraid about, you know, can they go out? Can they get together in small groups? What size groups? Are the facilities clean? How are they being cleaned? There's questions that nobody ever asked before. And now we're trying to answer those and figure out what does this community need. So I've been doing a lot of listening since I got here, trying to meet with different groups of people and figure out, you know, what do our own families need? You know, is their housing secure? Are they feeling food secure? How can I connect them and help get the resources, find the community partners that can share our mission and work together? And that's part of our conversation last Saturday was, you know, it takes a village, it takes a diverse group of people with different perspectives and gifts coming together to get anything done. And that's kind of the plan.
Kingsley.
Yes.
Yeah. My brother Kingsley, man, I miss you, man. I can't. I'm just try to touch you. You gotta make a hand. You gotta make my hand. You gotta reach your hand out. Reach your hand out, Kingsley. Try to touch me, right? So then the hand gotta be like this. Coming out the other side. Yeah. So listen, man. So we talked. Me and Andrew had this conversation. We started talking about the normal stuff people talk about now. And what's really amazing, this was what's really amazing to me, because I know how I am, right? So people say, oh, sometimes I'm very political, sometimes I'm very cultural or racially dialogue-ish, just a Jackson word. But what I have found, no matter where I seem to land over the last 12 months, pre-COVID, COVID going, there's somebody that is totally entrenched with needing to talk about politics in a setting, or race in a setting, or economics in a setting, or education in a setting that ultimately leads back to like race and politics. Like no matter how, I could just be sitting somebody, I hear people going like, oh wow, like, you know, and I don't know if it's anxiety, I don't know what it is. I'm not gonna, you know, put a psychology tab on it. But one thing I think that is intrinsically clear, and this is really interesting. So I never picked tobacco, but Andrew, you picked tobacco, which is really interesting. Kingsley is actually of true African descent, right? True African descent. I just recently traced my African lineage back to Burkina Faso, right? But I'm African American, so I am definitely of slave descent. So there's no, I don't have to be the black person to be like, I'm just, no, we was drug on them shores for shizzle my nizzle, right? So I'm definitely of slave descent. But now I have an anchor point. Burkina Faso is my anchor point. But what we share in different experiences is that I never picked tobacco, and yet Andrew, you grew up in a situation that is more, I would say, what black people kind of like, wow. Like if I grew up in Connecticut and I gave you that story and said, listen, I grew up on a farm and we picked tobacco, and my parents told me come home every day and get your education, so that's why I went this and I went to Notre Dame, and that would be like, wow, that's a Shafiq story. But it's an Andrew story, and it's an Andrew story, but you're not black, you're not of slave descent, you're not African American, but you have an experience that appears that really was life-changing for you, right? So I don't know if I want to call it that is the magic secret to, if I could just use the term, to you being like this like really great white guy, right? That is compassionate and understands what's going on. I don't think that's the secret, because there's other people around America that are exposed to those type of conditions, economically, culturally, whatever the issue is, and they're coming out the back end saying, well, I can just do a citizen arrest on the governor because she shut the state down, and everybody can understand that. So I guess the question I want to generate today is, kind of like what makes us different and what makes us the same,
right?
And how do we find the stream where we can all kind of have that conversation on, so we may not identify with every aspect of our lives, but we can respectfully live within a shared identity, right? So let me ask you this, if I turn it back to Andrew. So Kingsley, we call this in the black community, Andrew, that's your struggle story. That's what we call it. We call that a struggle story. It's a struggle story, right? That's your struggle story. That story there, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna keep it real with you, all right? If you ever having a problem with black people in a situation and you see it going left or right, I can't even use left or right no more. They have messed up left and right, right? So if you ever see it going sideways, I gotta bring in that colloquialism
going south.
Yeah, you ever see it going south? You ever see it going sideways? And before it starts going sideways, say, hold on a second, let me tell you this story right now. And tell that story.
Tell my struggle story.
You tell your struggle story. Don't tell it. You don't start off by saying, yo, this is my struggle story. No, you mess it up. When they start going like, oh, Andrew, you don't understand what's going on. You know what? I'm sick of you people. You say, hold on a second. Let me tell you something, okay? I grew up in South Windsor. You ever got bit by a tobacco worm? You ever got bit by a tobacco worm? Tell you a story. Tell them the story about the day you got bit by a tobacco worm. Tell them that's your struggle story, right? That I'm telling you. That's your passport.
You don't know.
That's your passport.
Until you've walked a mile.
That's a hood pass.
Listen,
that's a hood
pass. You tell that story. You're good. All right. So now, Kingsley, here's my deal with you though, because like you're not from slave descent. You is my free brother, right? You is the brother that I was like, man, why'd you leave me here, man? Come get me, right? What's your struggle story? Yeah, we need your struggle story. What's your struggle story?
I'm from the headquarters. I mean, I'm not sure what my...
Do you have a struggle story?
I'm not sure what my struggle story would be, because if you was born and raised in Africa, every day was a struggle unless you was born and raised in a silver spoon fed, and it's not too many, now if you go to Ghana and Nigeria, it's a lot of silver spoon fed, because it's today's Africa is not yesterday's Africa. I'm telling you, we're struggling out here.
So tell us about that. Right. So tell me about the Africa you grew up in.
I mean,
So let's go. So Andrew, how old were you?
I'm gonna tell you, I have a struggle. I have a struggle story, such as I did a lot of going to boarding schools when I was in Ghana. And normally, if you went to boarding school in Africa, you were fortunate because you had parents that was able to afford to let you go to a boarding school where you get the best education, you get the best disciplinary actions while they at home working and don't have to worry about waking up to juggle around, you every day. But with that, it's also, learning all the bad things that, go. It's like going into a boot camp, you get the best of it and you also get the worst of it. So it's up to you to learn to balance those things. So my struggle story, like I tell my wife in boarding school, waking up, going to people's farms, stealing corns and stuff like that to cook just to make it through, because that 3 meals a day thing still doesn't do it throughout. So we'll be starving, and we come home from school during the vacation and stealing people's chickens when they go to work and cook them. Those were struggle
you
stories.
Stealing people chicken, man. Yo, man, I got some chickens in my yard. I better not see you back there, bro.
I mean, it's like,
right now.
We come home and then it's like, oh boy, them boarding school kids, badass boarding school kids is home. Those were struggle stories for me. But I don't have struggle stories like, like we were picking cottons or nothing like that. No, I'm from the slavery headquarters, but that wasn't my experience, to tell you the truth. But it was definitely a hard.
So let me ask you this. Right. Do you think that, not being born in America, having, you're sharing dual cultural experience, right? You have the experience of being both Black in Africa, and then you also have the experience of being Black in America, right? So do you find that the concept of a struggle story is really something just indicative of American culture, and that you do not need to have this struggle story concept in Africa in order to blend or be assumed into or allowed into different cultural circles?
America's struggle is different. America's struggle is just being spoiled, taking things for granted. I mean, take it for instance, you got in our community where we feel like is the community of the oppressed, is the community of the systemic racism. We call it. Feel like we've been trapped. Even with all that, you got kids that get on school bus to go to school every day. They don't have to walk. So let's compare the struggles. They get this good lunch where we feel like it may not be a good lunch. You compare it, kids are not getting that in Africa. Beginning the school year, you got back to school backpack program going all over the place. So their bags are loaded to go to school. Kids are not getting that, in Africa. After school programs, sometimes you got to chase these kids around to go to after school program. We always cry there's nothing for these kids to do, which I never agree with that. It may not be the best program for them, but there is something for them to do. And parents find every excuse not to get them in. So, the struggles are different. We compare our struggles to the fortunates. Okay, we live in Bridgeport, we live in New Haven. Let's compare our struggle, what's going on in Greenwich, Fairfield, and whatnot. That's how we compare our struggles. So it's levels to the struggles. And, it's a lot of kids in Africa that would love to be in this shoe over here and not call it a struggle.
I've heard the same feedback as well from people from other countries as well, Ecuador, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, and many other places around where folks that are here have, whether they came and immigrated to the United States or naturalized, however you want to refer to the term, visiting, they say, wow, this is amazing. And people seem to be, just so sat back and so relaxed, and this is crazy. So my question to you, Andrew, it seems like from your upbringing that you have a different level of insight about, I think I say a perspective on different, that would allow you to have a perspective on different cultures, coming from what is really a type of background that's kind of indicative of a lot of African American, Hispanic, Latino people in Connecticut. So when I say, I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying the people who struggle, who are dealing with generational poverty, who are up against uncertain futures around their education. Should I go to school? Should I not go to school? Can I go to school, right? Might have to babysit. Can I go to college? Can I not go to college? So my question to you is, did you see that as a significant life perspective for you, to give you insight? And if so, when did it happen? When did the light bulb turn on for you with that?
I think you hit the nail on the head with that word perspective. When you think about it, there's no one thing that can generate that kind of momentum in somebody's life. You take in everything you see around you, the struggles of the people around you, and you look at those opportunities and those challenges, and you have to figure out, where can you go with what you have, and who tells you you can get in this line and it leads towards the track that might lead you to a good school and go into college, or you get in this line over here and you go to a trade school and that might be the right thing for you. It's information that is being given to some and not to others. So I watched and looked and thought, this is all about access. If you don't have access to the ideas, if you don't know what the choices are, how can you make them? So I was fortunate. My parents worked hard. My brothers and sisters worked hard. We had options. We were able to go out and find scholarships and go out and find programs that could support our goals and our dreams of going out and making the world a better place for ourselves and for our communities. But I see kids now, they get sort of channeled towards what's going to be next, whether or not they have any say in it, or whether or not they even know that they have, what are their dreams? Are they dreaming big enough? Are they having access to the information that could help them make a better choice about trying something different? Maybe you can't judge a book by its cover is such a cliche, and yet you've said it yourself just today. You can't look at a person and know their struggle story. You don't know where they came from. You don't know how they got to where they are. And I just look at kids. I look at our Farnham kids. They're 3 and 4 years old when they come to us. Life is endless possibilities, but they have to have the opportunities. They have to have the information. Their families need to be supported. You can't learn if you're hungry. I mean, you need a fire in your belly, but you got to fuel that fire. You have to have food. You have to have breakfast. You got to have a good lunch. You got to be ready to take information in, and have that hierarchy of needs being met in order to know. And we've got to have parent education programs, and we've got to have those after school programs, martial arts and yoga and dance and music and art and all of those things to fire up their imaginations. We don't know who the next Alvin Ailey is for a kid that might only dance to radio music and doesn't have access to a caring teacher that can coax out maybe an aptitude or an attitude that might make that maybe not a profession, but maybe just like a lifelong love. I've been exposed and have exposed my children to anything and everything, because you don't know what's going to spark that imagination. You don't know what's going to make them want to have the motivation and the inspiration to pursue, whether it's a career goal, whether it's a service opportunity, whether it's a job that can provide for themselves and their family. It's all about access. And in this country, we talk about achievement. instead of access. And we put the onus back on the teacher and the parents for failing the child. The child's not smart enough. The child can't achieve if they don't. I don't believe that. I don't believe that any of these children can't achieve if they're given access to the right materials, if their teachers have what they need. That's been my mission since I walked foot in this building, is to get these amazing teachers the tools they need to support these families so that these kids have options and have choices. That's what we want for our kids. That's how we change the world. It's that simple. But it's not.
If you're just joining us today on Urban Talk Radio, and we're discussing straight to the point. We're having straight to the point talk. You can join this conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds. You can also stream this show live on your smartphone or computer by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. I have my co-host on, Kingsley Osei. I have in the studio, our guest in our Zoom studio is Andrew Myers, and Andrew Myers is the managing director of the Farnham Center. And I want to take us to the next level of the show. And this is from the Bridge. This is from the Bridge, Michigan. And it goes something like this. Since the new president, there has been an uptick in people being very confrontational about race relations, says Spivey Oliver, 54, who works in the Cranston Prothesis for people with severe hair loss. So it looks like they work for the veterans. I've never had the experiences I'm having now. Neither one of us ever owned guns before, but just seeing the climate made us to think about the safety of our home. She is among a record number of African Americans in Michigan and nationwide who are buying guns this year, in part because of the host of concerns, including the pandemic and police violence, to fears of a civil war, and President Donald Trump telling the neo-fascist Proud Boys in a recent debate to stand back and stand by. Michigan says their background checks are up to 500,000 this year, literally nearly double. And there is a national report that by the end of the year in the United States of America, there will have been potentially 20 million background checks for people buying firearms. Since the pandemic, since the pandemic, African Americans seem to be the largest number of gun purchasers since the pandemic, which started roughly around March. So I guess I'm going to turn the question to this conversation now. Where are we going? I mean, the election is roughly in 13 days. The analysts have said, mail-in voting is secure, drop off the ballots are secure. We call them absentee ballots, we call them mail-in ballots, depending on the perspective you come into, and they say they're secure, the process is secure. We know that the president cut the budget for the Postal Service, so that kind of interrupted things. We know the mail is definitely delayed, and it's still being delayed because of just the logistics of how it's operating. And there's new information out there that people who vote by mail for the first time have a 50% chance of having their ballot thrown out due to technical issues such as they forgot to fill out their name, they forgot to sign their name, the signatures don't match, just basic information. So even though in some states we're hearing 80% of the voters have already cast their ballots by mail,
there are 2 signatures.
It is possible.
There are 2 signatures required in South Carolina, which if you already had your vote out before the judge ruled, it may be thrown out because those signatures were out.
So there is I'll talk about what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, particularly in the African American community, and I'm also hearing it in communities that are not African American. People are bracing for impact. People are like, look, we don't know what November 4th looked like. And now we don't even know what November 3rd looks like, because there's a report that 50,000 people will be sent out as watchdogs for like the Republican Party, right? It didn't say the Democratic Party, but it said that they're going to be sending out 50,000 people like watchdogs. And according to CNN, Fox News, and others, they're reporting that those people might be Proud Boys. They might be sympathizers of these so-called groups. They might be armed. It sounds a lot like when Black people were starting to vote early back in the day, and it was like, show up at the polls and we're going to beat you, or show up at the polls and you're going to... and there's also something that was sent out in one of the states to people telling them, vote Republican or else, right? And then we've also, let's not forget Senator Lindsey Graham, who made the statement last week and said that African Americans are welcome in our state and they can move any way around they want, right? As long as they're conservative,
right,
and as long as you have our views. So I guess I'm throwing the question back out to y'all. Where we at? Where we at? Right
even before getting to that poll, where you're going to find a barrier, is we take a step forward and then we slide two back. You know, you don't have to take a test anymore that you can't possibly pass in order to register to vote. But now, is that forward momentum if when you get there, you're intimidated by the Proud Boys, or you're worried about all of these guns that are out there. You know, the Supreme Court, there's a whole nother episode. The Supreme Court striking down the law that made revision of election laws in counties that had problematic or challenges to the equity in their systems, changed everything. There's no longer any oversight for different counties, different places just saying, oh, hey, well, now we're going to do this, and we're going to change the times, and we're going to require this, or we're not going to require that. There's no longer a body looking at the constitutionality of whether or not election laws are changed in local constituencies, which means we're not going to know who had proper access, whose vote was counted, and we're not going to know the way we used to. We used to stay up late and watch those returns come in, and we would get a certain percent, and we could trust some media and the experts who would say, at a certain point, based on this and that, we can call this county for this or this state for that. It's going to be sit back and wait, and that waiting just brews an awful lot of anxiety. That waiting brews an awful lot of unknown and the feelings that erupt from that. I'm worried, and I'm not alone being worried.
Kingsley,
you said something.
Kingsley, what are we doing?
You said something. You mentioned the word fascist, right? Now, people have been hearing, Trump takes everything is about marketing. The CEO of the country, everything is about marketing. It's not about presiding for the entire country. It's about marketing and getting certain words to his followers over, whether it's a fake news or whether it's Antifa. You see, in marketing, the difference between Democrats and Republicans, Democrats will come up with a 5-page of something to you, right? Republican will come up with a bumper sticker, make it so easy, 3 words, make America great again, and pound that over and over and over and over. So you have people saying, you mention CNN and automatically, oh, CNN is fake news. Oh, CNN is fake news. But they forget that without CNN's oversight, everybody that was indicted in the Trump administration would have walked away for free. People that pleaded guilty for being caught for doing the things that they did, pleaded guilty, but you're still going to have people say, oh, it was a hoax. Oh, it was a hoax, fake news, hoax, fake news. So you said the word fascist. And Antifa, if anybody wants to know the meaning, you've heard it over and over, it means anti-fascist. I'm going to repeat, Antifa means anti-fascist. Democrats always want pundits to do their work for them. I don't see Democrats cutting an ad trying to educate people as to why they need to take over the Senate. They want pundits to go on TV and make up all the excuses for them. I mean, come on, let's educate people what anti-fascist means. If Republicans, if there are no Proud Boys or no more this white nationalists and white whatever, there won't be anti-fascists. There won't be Antifa. Let's put it like that. Antifa shows up when they bring their ignorance. They say, we're not having it.
Right.
Antifa don't go out looking for trouble.
Here's my, this is obviously my personal perspective, hey, listen, I'm a believer in the right to bear arms, definitely, right? And I'm a believer in the Constitution. I mean, I don't dispute any component of the Constitution. My only disappointment in the Constitution is that the things that were amended, it would have been nice if they would have been in there from the beginning. We wouldn't be having these conversations, right? But I have to be totally honest. Antifa, Proud Boys, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm not impressed with neither one of the groups. I mean, some people say, well, Antifa's this. Listen, I'm just going to keep it real. Antifa, what we see on TV, what we see in person is often people who are not Black that are doing things that are counterproductive to building bridges with cultures and building bridges with races and building bridges in our society. That's how I look at it, right? And unfortunately, I think for groups like Black Lives Matter and other folks who sympathize around issues around racial injustice have gotten swooped up in it's kind of like political eclectic vegetable soup of BS. You've got young Black kids saying Black Lives Matter. My uncle got shot by the police. Black Lives Matter. I can't go to school because I can't handle student loans or whatever their issue. And then you got people who are not Black rolling up in hoodies with backpacks throwing Molotov cocktails. Now they can keep it real. In America, Black people ain't even built like that. Black people not even built like that. The history of Black America, of the ex-slave, you can go and look at it under behavioral science and see the pattern of behavior of how Black people onboarded their freedom. That is not the style of onboarded freedom. Am I committing Black people in this show right now saying that they are eternally passive? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is they are not inherently destructive. That's what I'm saying. The history of Black America is Black people built this country. You can't get around the infrastructural contributions to Black people, physically building the country, inventing things, never even being able to keep the patent, inventing things, never even getting paid, the free laborer, the advancements in technology as it is with surgeries and the Black lady who they stole her DNA and used it over and over again as a serum for other diseases. The Black lady who helped put the first man on the moon through her mathematical logistics. That's who Black people are. So when we see Black Lives Matter, the descendants of these people, and then we see people who are not Black marching alongside of them, throwing Molotov cocktails, and then we grade them and say, oh, well, they're better than I don't give a damn, because neither one of them representing my struggle. You want to represent my struggle? Bro, I got a list for you, bro. Start with reducing my interest rate on my mortgage. Start with getting people in positions when they see a name, Tyrone, Shaniqua, Taquan, let them in the freaking school. You follow what I'm saying? Open the gate to Yale and let my Black people in this city that cannot get an education get into Yale and really see themselves as a member of society and be able to access the keys to those kingdoms. Antifa, whoever the hell you people are, help my people with that, okay? With the stuff that Andrew's talking about, with the early childhood education, with how are we going to be able to have retirement? So that's just I'm just saying that's just my piece on it, because I think that part of that is like really a diversionary tactic. Now, every time you mention Black Lives Matter, which I have my own opinion about that, that's another show, it automatically gets hit with, well, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Proud Boys, it's all a big mess, and I don't have nothing to do with it. And
let me what's his name? Let me answer Harry. It put something in the chat. Say shutting down free speech and intimidating.
Don't Harry, don't. No, don't.
Hold up. I know
Harry, man.
No,
oh
hold
my
up.
God.
I'm gonna pretend because Harry speaks for
Harry. Stop baiting them.
He speaks about the talking points that we hear in the media, and I just want to speak it out. You see, shutting down free speech and intimidating people is more of a Hitler brown shirt tactic. Burning cars, business, and taking over neighborhoods. Seattle is not anti-fascist. Now, let me say something. With his first one, shutting down free speech and intimidating people, it's more of a Hitler brown shirt. The only person I knew shutting down free speech was Trump trying to shut down the free speech of of journalists. Let's start from there. Shutting down the free speech of journalists. Let's start from there. All right. Now, you're talking about burning cars and intimidating. He's the one intimidating by sending his Proud Boys to the polls. Okay. Now you're talking about burning cars and businesses. Well, when a black man is shot in the back by a police officer and you worrying about burning down cars and buildings, you cannot bring that body back. Okay. Cars and buildings can be built back up. Okay. So if that's what you're worrying about, and you're not worrying about a black man who was shot in the back by the cop, and then you turn on to Fox News and you see conservatives defending the police officer, and then you turn on to CNN, and then you got people trying to make sure that the police officer is brought to justice. We got issues over here. We are a divided country, and it's what it is.
So let me just chime in and say this. You know, this whole pattern of burning cities and cars and stuff actually hit its first point after the result of the Mike Brown shooting. After the prosecutor came out, 8 o'clock at night, they delayed it late. They thought people would be more in their homes, but everybody was out in Ferguson, and they gave the decision, and Mike Brown's stepfather got up on the car and said, burn this place down. And the black people that were a part of Ferguson, that were members of Ferguson, that had protested for 100 and some odd days, took to the streets and burnt down. One could say, even in sociology, that was almost like an excited utterance in terms of their behavior. It was just immediate. It was immediate. It wasn't planned. They didn't have backpacks. They didn't have Molotov cocktails already pre-made. They didn't have all of it. It was just people outside saying, this is crazy. What's the decision? And then they just reacted. So I'm gonna say that. That's a big difference between somebody going to a rally, planning, and bringing all of those concepts. So I'm gonna be one of those people and say, you know, I'm not going to support people burning down other people's stuff, because I'm a business owner. My mother was a business owner for 35 years. And, you know, hey, listen, the reality, it is real. When you burn down a business in a city that's owned by a black person, they're almost never going to get their business back. They still rebuilding from the Rodney King riots that happened in the 90s, bro. This is like $20 billion of damage there they're still rebuilding from. So think about that. So I think it's like a discussion on both sides. If black people burn up the town, it's disappointing. If black people burn up the town, it's going to impact their community. If the Walgreens closed, where are you going to go get your medicine? If this so I get it's a balance on both sides, but I think that groups like Antifa being mixed in with the Black Lives Matter, I think it cheapens the struggle. in cause of black people. That's what I believe. I believe it cheapens.
Well, like I said, Antifa is not an organization. That's first of all.
Whatever they are, listen. So,
no,
so
but check
whoever,
it out.
my thing.
We got 5
whoever
minutes.
they are.
We got
Whoever
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Antifa is not an organization. So if I organize a peaceful protest and Antifa came in from another city, another town to come burn the buildings down, I shouldn't be held responsible for it because Antifa, the so-called Antifa, is not an organization. Black Lives Matter is an organization. Antifa is not. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, they keep throwing this stuff out there and they say pound it, pound it, pound it, and people believe whatever is pounded, but don't do their own research to find out what is really, really, really behind. But we got 5 minutes to go, and I don't think that we should finish this show without talking. Without talking about the headline of the week, which is Ice Cube bringing, you know, this whatever black agenda to, you know, the Trump.
You got a contract with Black America, bro. That's your boy.
No, it's not my boy. I mean, you know, yes, I had opportunity.
Boy, man.
Let me get it straight. I had opportunity of working with Ice Cube at Priority Records. Very proud, you know, of that.
Yeah.
Ice Cube
smoking too much weed. Smoking too much weed.
I don't know what's too much he's smoking about. I started to dig a little bit more, and you know, started finding out, you know, his big three, being connected with you know, what you call his boy, Steve Bannon's boy, who was part ownership. You know, I started making a lot of connections, but from the very beginning, I said, no, this is not supposed to make any sense because Mr. F, the police, is trying to get money from the oppressor to say that, hey, I don't care who wins, whoever put the money on the table, even if the oppressor put the money on the table, we're gonna take it. What's gonna happen? You take money from the oppressor and you keep him in power, and tomorrow we out there marching again, fighting for everything that you are against. I don't care how they spend it. I am not buying it. What I keep hearing people say is, oh, black people have been trapped in the Democrat Party, trapped in the, we could have that conversation after November 4th. But for right now, the world is watching and the world wants this dude out of office. That is not negotiable at all. And trying to bring some type of contract into somebody after the DNC convention basically tells you that you don't know much about politics. And when you went out there running like that, they're going to take advantage of you because those contracts is not making it to the platform. And if it doesn't make it to the platform, it means nothing.
All right, so here's what I'm going to say, because this is your people. Call Ice Cube and tell him to get his butt on Urban Talk Radio, and we can talk about it. He want to talk about a contract with Black America. He want to keep it real. He can get on a real radio show, not CNN, biggin Mark Tapper or what's the other guy's name? Cuomo.
Jake Tapper.
Yep. Yeah, Cuomo tell he's gonna be back on the show. He can come back and see us, but
he's been doing that. What I call it is he's been doing the damage control interviews. No matter how you spin it, it's not going to make sense to we the ones.
All I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna turn to Andrew because I want Andrew to get something in before we go off. What you were saying, Kingsley, about Ice Cube.
HLP 103.5 FM, New Haven.
Yeah, that's our 30-second. Ice Cube, the reason he can come out like that, as you say, to the oppressor, because Ice Cube has made so much money now, he's no longer at the level of everybody else. He's a part of that piece. Andrew, give us some closing. Give us some closing thoughts and some closing words as we got 30 seconds before we close out this show on Urban Talk Radio.
Shafiq, you talked about the stories of the people.
I'm gonna give you 5 extra minutes.
Oh, perfect. We got 5 extra minutes.
What's up, Harry?
Excellent.
What's up, boy?
You talked. Thank you.
I gotta say something nice about Trump before it's over with.
No, Kingsley.
We've given Trump enough time.
Enough time, man.
It's time for him to just go.
Yeah. This ain't the Ice Cube show.
I just said I was going to reward Harry for the 5 minutes. That's what I meant.
He deserves it.
My God.
Ice Cube is not one of these heroes that our children need to look up to. The people that you were talking about before, the stories of the contributions made, they have to be told and they have to be presented I keep going back to preschool, from birth, from infancy, in our families, in our nuclear families, in our extended communities. When these children come to school, they need to see themselves represented in books. They need to understand the stories of the people that you were just talking about before, about the mathematician that got us to the moon, about the sacrifices made by doctors and medical professionals. You want to talk about why the Black community is afraid that they're about to be guinea pigs for this virus study? There's nothing but history in the back saying you're going to be abused by this. You're going to get the short end, and it's not going to work out for you. We need to be telling the right stories. We need to be infusing children with the hope, with the knowledge that they can build on that and find momentum. And not, we've talked about this, not in the shortest month of the year where we say, oh, this is Black History Month. No.
Andrew, you almost lost your hood pass. You almost lost your hood pass right now.
Am I losing my hood pass with you,
Kingsley? Because you know, if we gotta have this real conversation, it's gotta be real conversation. This is why we do certain programs where it's not about all that sweet talk. Because Ice Cube I'm pounding on Ice Cube right now for taking a political stance where he doesn't know much about civic engagement to be doing. Now his process was the wrong way, wrong timing, on and on and on. But if you say that Ice Cube is not a role model, that is not something I could agree on. Let me finish.
What I'm saying is what he's doing right now. His behavior.
Ice Cube comes from the very bottom. And
he came from the bottom. He came from the bottom.
Very, very.
He's not at the bottom no more. He's not there anymore.
No. He's not using.
I'm just saying that
leverage his influence.
He said he's not a role model for somebody who came from the bottom, and where he is right now, he is a role model to a lot of kids that came.
He surely can be. Right. But once you get there, you can't then sit back and say, well, now that I have enough for me and mine, then I can just start dipping into politics and change. He's not doing good. Well, he's not leveraging his influence right now.
Correct that because
that's correct.
And I had that conversation when I talk about how proud I am of LeBron James, because in sports, being a Jordan fan and a Lakers fan, I am not a LeBron fan. But the stance LeBron have taken in the past on social issues, putting his money where his mouth is.
Yes, I agree 100%.
That's different. Right, but let me just here's my thing with Ice Cube. Okay, I watch his movies. I think he's great. Son's a good actor. Love it. He does have a struggle story. You're right. I would agree. He is a role model, but his role model status of what he used to be is diminishing because now he's rich and he's acting like a rich person. Right. Rich people often act very detached from the struggles of the poor people, and that's how he's acting right now. And if he wants to be a current role model with people in the hood, with people in the struggle, then he need to be doing what Nipsey Hussle did. Okay? Because the Nipsey Hussle story is more of that role model component that maybe we're trying to refer Ice Cube. Ice Cube ain't a role model for. Ice Cube is a role model for Will Smith's son. Okay? Who Jaden Smith is the son of a multi-million-dollar parenting company, okay, companies of parents. And he's trying to be a thug. He's trying to get thug stripes so that he can feel and have a struggle story. So Ice Cube is his role model. Oh, he was rich. He used to be but does call Ice Cube a role model for Pookie and Snooki? Hell no.
I can love my children.
Don't even know him at that level.
I can love my children and not love all of their behaviors.
30 seconds.
So right now, I can love Ice Cube, but not his current behavior.
Well, he can get it right. He got opportunity to get it right. That's all.
Yeah, you better hurry up and get it right. You better hurry up and get it right before the virus get a serum and we start having movies again, because you'd be played out of the movie.
He's got to go back to 2016 where his politics were in line. Gentlemen, thank you for having me on.
Good talk, man.
As always.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
Take care, brother.
And if you are just tuning into Urban Talk Radio this morning, hot conversation, straight to the point. I had a guest on. His name is Andrew Myers. He is the managing director of the Farnham Center, and always my brother we both from the same country. Kingsley Osei. Thank you for joining us on Urban Talk Radio. Remember, tune in next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Urban Talk Radio airs every Wednesday, 11 o'clock, 103.5 FM, newhavenindependent.org. 13 days. 13 days. 13 days.